This is Aaron Levine, LG Insurance Agency, hanging out with Dan Schulman from Qumis, an AI technology that's helping guys like me, guys and gals, people in the insurance industry do a little bit better of a job by using AI and different technologies. It's what we've been talking about for the last 12 months. There's so many different shiny new objects in the interwebs and in our systems lately, and everything that's going on. And this is a new one that I haven't been privy to experiencing yet, and I can't wait to be able to learn more about it. So, Dan, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast. I can't wait to get this message out and share this new knowledge with so many of my peers and listeners and colleagues, and see how we can't do better for our clients, all in all, because insurance policies, in my opinion, are typically 140 to 220 pages of the word no, but we can take that to a whole nother level. So, Dan, thanks for joining me.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
You as well. So, Dan, let's go backwards before we go forwards. You are an attorney by trade. Do you still practice as an attorney?
I do not, but I maintain my license.
Okay. All right. So you went from practicing law and somehow you got into insurance law. How does somebody get into insurance law as, their specialty?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm sure like many folks listening, everyone just kind of stumbles into insurance. And I took a class in law school on insurance law.
Okay.
And it was taught by a professor I really liked. And I thought it was really interesting, and there were a lot of jobs in the area. So I said, let's do it. Let's just go in this direction. And I was able to use some of my assignments from that class as, examples to apply to jobs with. And that's how I ended up in insurance.
It's so funny. Everybody stumbles. You're either born into insurance or you stumble into insurance. Even my story of getting into insurance, my family was always into different businesses and spent a lot of money and believed heavily in different types of insurances. And I basically needed a job. I needed to buy myself a job while I was in graduate school. And, insurance was recession proof. And that's what got me started. I'm like, all right, I can sell a commodity. That's how it started, and we stumble into this great business. And there's so much opportunity when I speak to young professionals, when I speak to college students or anybody thinking about what they want to do. Insurance isn't sexy as so many other careers might be, but there is so much opportunity and so much longevity. And if you don't like one area of it, whether it's retail, you can go into wholesale. If you don't like wholesale, you can go into underwriting and work at the carrier side. You can work on the legal side, right? You can work on writing policy language. There's so much. And if you don't like all of it, you can go move to London and work on the reinsurance aspect of it. Right? Trillions of dollars of career opportunity in this space. And now in the past couple of years, the AI, the tech side of the insurance industry is finally booming. And it's amazing. So you got into insurance law. You were more on the company side or more on the agent side?
I was a coverage attorney analyzing and litigating coverage for carriers. So I represented the carriers.
Okay.
But generally it was pretty objective. In the world, I was kind of in the complex commercial P&C liability claim universe, where there's a lot of lawyers involved, and it's usually not that contentious. It's
right.
Either an adjuster made a mistake or, there's a legitimate, desire to get more money out of the claim. But usually both sides are just trying to find out, is it covered or is it not, and argue back and forth.
And language is often vague. And I'm one of the few that has read the insurance policy from cover to cover on different types of forms I've read, and I do my best to interpret and make educated guesses as to what those interpretations mean. And then I always throw my hands up and say, by the way, I'm not a lawyer. I've just read these a few times. And just like when I'm interpreting a lease, right? When we're reviewing insurance clauses in leases, is just to help provide a little bit of guidance and say, I think this, but send that question to your attorney so that they can finalize it, right? We can only go so far in what we do, but I tend to think that I'm pretty good at it. But, interpreting policy language is confusing, even from my broker perspective. If I'm running quotes for, we're doing a manufacturer right now in the plastics business, and we're looking at all types of different quotes from all types of different carriers, both on the E&S side and the admitted side, and we're trying to figure out what's what. And that's not always the easiest thing to do, especially every policy form is a little bit different. So
By design.
you got lazy one day and you said, let's find a way to do this easier and do it a little bit different. So tell me how you came up with the idea for Qumis.
Yeah, the idea from Qumis came from a realization I had that ultimately the insurance policy is a legal contract. So, I saw all of this really cool innovation happening in legal tech. And I realized that, actually, all of the licensed insurance professionals out there have very similar workflows to lawyers.
Okay.
They're reading contracts every day. And so I thought, how can we be inspired by the tools that lawyers have and build really powerful tools for insurance professionals that are a little more targeted, a little more designed specifically for insurance, kind of using my background of having done exactly that. But realizing that, there's a great opportunity to help bring out more knowledge, help institutionalize that knowledge, especially as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of the industry is retiring. And I really thought about how generally, if you do have a coverage question, usually most folks pick up the phone and call Bob because Bob knows the answer. But chances are Bob's not going to be working there in the next 5 years.
Right.
And so what happens then? Insert AI tools, I think, are really necessary to preserve that knowledge, along with making those tasks a lot faster, more accurate, but kind of in the macro. We need to have tools that kind of facilitate the generational knowledge transfer.
Yeah, I mean, we're using, tools in our CRMs. All the carriers are using, different tools for data retrieval when it comes to putting quotes together. I mean, the amount of data points that goes into a personal auto policy is absurd nowadays. I don't know how our prior generation was able to operate. They would pick up the phone, they would use a wheel, they would get quotes, they would go out themselves to take pictures of properties. I mean, we work so fast and furious in 2025 to try to get things done. And, oftentimes it's first to market. It has the opportunity to win, but how do we differentiate ourselves, right? A lot of agents talk about driving a wedge, right? We've all heard that phrase, driving the wedge. How do we drive that wedge? And how does this technology, Qumis, help me be able to, one, drive a wedge so I can win, but two, better protect myself and arm myself so that I get to tell the insureds, here's some of the key exclusions on your policy that I might not have picked up by looking at the final page of those forms that are listed there. So go into that aspect of it.
Yeah, the wedge really comes from empowering you to be as best of an advisor as possible for your clients. Helping you become quickly fluent in all the different quotes and how those are worded and the different languages and what that means for the specific risk profile of your customers, and being able to provide, lawyer level sophisticated review of those policies and quotes to advise in the best way. And I would say if you can spend less time doing that, insurance is ultimately a business of relationships. That means that you can be out there developing those relationships. Right. I don't think AI is going to change that. I think that's why insurance is safe because ultimately it's a relationship of insurance. It's a business of relationships, and those relationships don't get replaced by AI.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. If we look back, gosh, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I guess Lemonade, right, was the quote unquote first disruptor of the personal insurance space, or one of the first disruptors, and they made a lot of noise when it came to, we're going to write a renter's policy and we're going to do it in 90 seconds, and then look at us, we paid out our first claim in less than 5 seconds. But then you look at their loss ratio 3 years later, and paying out those claims in 5 seconds and writing those policies in 60 was probably not a very good idea, because it caused them to be very volatile and and less secure, and their ratios were way too high, right? I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that's the story of it. And we've seen that over and over with different technologies trying to go in and replace the agent. So there's a value to my expertise, but there's a value in me being able to use tools to do it better and faster, and then be able to bring on my staff and get them up to speed without them having to necessarily become CICs and CRMs and go through all that additional training, which is very valuable. I'm a big fan of it. I'm almost done with my CRM. I have my CIC. I think those designations are worthwhile because we need to still know and understand what to look for, not just let the technology do the work for us, but it's super important. So if I'm an agent and let's take this from two different angles, right? I'm shopping for a client's insurance for a manufacturer, and I have three potential quotes on my desktop. I can I can upload those, and Qumis can give me some indications on what's different, what's better, what's not, what is some language might be off. Take me through that.
Yeah, exactly that. So when using Qumis, you can drag and drop those three quotes, it inputs them, it analyzes them, and then we output a report
Okay.
that's very similar to what you would get from an expert if you were to send those out to an expert or a lawyer and say, "Hey, give me some insights on these." It's almost like a memo. So we outline different coverages you should be looking at, how the terms and conditions compare. Then we provide an interactive dashboard that compares all of the different elements across those three quotes. You can quickly scroll through them, export it as Excel if you want. And then we have a chat where you can actually chat with your documents as well. So you can say, hey,
Chat
which
with my
policy
documents.
prevents.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just the one. And you had mentioned, Adobe and chatting with, your policy. Imagine if you could chat with all three of your quotes that you're placing. Hey, like which quote provides the best coverage for a manufacturing company, or what coverages should I be considering? So that kind of level of insights on top of the reporting that we give. So it's really
So
an
the tool's
enabler
also
of the
been
agents.
loaded with industry specific knowledge then, right? For, who needs E&O, or we'll take it very basic, right? E&O insurance. Does this policy provide errors and emissions insurance for a contractor? Or if we're dealing in New York State, what's the action over limitation in there? I can chat with my documents on certain things because it understand the AI understands what action over is with respect to New York State insurance.
Yes, exactly that. And the reporting that we give, the AI will automatically determine what type of coverage it is, and then what type of business the insured is, and then provide some coverage insights on what coverages should you be thinking about, what claim scenarios should be thinking about for this specific business, for this specific placement.
So it could also help us be a playbook for placing that business, right, for specific industries to be able to help us determine, the best course of action, right? And then obviously we take the cost into play to determine what we want to self-insure, what risk we want to retain, so that the insured can then make the best decision for themselves. And it sounds like you just covered my ass from an E&O issue because we put all this in writing, and the client can then pick up this PDF and have this understanding of what we've then talked about and been able to put in front of them.
Yeah, yeah. And one key thing I want to focus on what you said is it helps us advise the client. We're really big on human in the loop, requiring you to use your agent mind to review the information to provide the advice to the client.
Right.
Our tool is not designed just to, hit print, send it out, not think about it. And so we're very clear with that we're here to enable and empower agents, not replace them. And that's, key throughout the entire experience.
So is there an escalation platform if I want to say, okay, I don't know if I love the way the tool is responding to me? Is there an escalation to a team? Is it AI first or is it AI only?
Right now it's AI only,
Okay.
but we're working on that second part. And right now you can say that in the chat. So you could say in the chat, I think you got this wrong, and it'll reanalyze things. You can kind of have that conversation with it. I really advise folks to think of the chat like a colleague. The person who prepared this report for you is sitting in front of you. you think they got something wrong, tell them, and then see what it comes up with. And it kind of changes the way you think about AI. Is just to think about it as literally an assistant. Not all of us have assistants, so it's kind of a different way of thinking.
Right.
But right now you can escalate it with itself, which is
Okay.
pretty cool.
That's neat. It's nice to be able to have that capability. And I tell my team that AI is not replacing any of us. It's only going to help us work differently, probably make us work harder at the end of the day. But I don't think AI is taking anybody's job away right now, this minute. As long as we're using the tool correctly, it's just going to allow us to work faster. And we have different technologies in our office that allow us to work a little bit faster and more diligently. And in your case, pick up certain mistakes that could be in there, right? Renewal reviews. What a great opportunity. What did the carrier change from this year to last year? You know, Clients shopping, they send over their policy decks. Great. Instead of me searching it, unless I already know what the policy potentially looks like, I have a tool that's going to help me lay it out. And then I can summarize it through your tool to be able to send it back to the client, the prospect, to be able to be more educated and help them get more educated on what it is. And I currently do that mostly manually, but I've done it 1,000 times, so I'm pretty good at it. But it's nice to be able to, potentially have a tool to be able to do that. So what's next on the horizon for you guys? I think this is a great opportunity for agents to get started, get things uploaded. One of the questions that always comes up is it secure? Or where are the documents going as I upload them, right? Because people are uploading documents to ChatGPT to ask it to do the same thing. Give me some of the security advantages of Qumis.
The security advantages of Qumis are that we're fully secure. We're built for the enterprise. We're SOC 2 compliant. All of our models do not train on customer data. We have our own data sets that we've used to build this thing. So we don't need customer data to optimize it. I mean, we take the feedback, when you put like the thumbs up and the thumbs down, but in terms of the data and the models, we don't train on data. Everything is secured in transit and rest. It's all SOC 2. So we're working with multiple of the largest brokers in the country, and we've gone through their very rigorous procurement process. So we've gotten through some strict security reviews with a green light.
So who's the best prospect for you when it comes to Qumis? Is it independent agents? Is it the brokerage houses, or is it more risk managers and companies and and law firms?
So funny you should mention that. We have all of those using the platform. So,
Okay.
We're really focused on helping people read and interpret the insurance policy. And so there's a lot of folks that do that every day in all the different areas you just described. And so we have law firms that are using the platform, brokers, claims departments at carriers. We want to get into underwriters and risk managers. So we're really focused on, reimagining what it means to read that policy. I have a vision for, having a single consolidated view. So all the endorsements are shown in line, things like that are possible with technology now.
Yeah.
And then enriching it with data, enriching it with your own form library, enriching it with your claims outcomes and claims information and litigation histories and things like that. So there's a lot of knowledge to unlock through the policy itself, and a lot of companies, large and small, are sitting on a lot of data that's in your brain. But how can we get that, your experience out onto the paper, and then especially for new teammates?
Right.
So that's kind of our vision, and then you can expand into all the other areas as well in insurance. But how do we unlock coverage insights?
I love that. So let's go back into the hows and the who's, right? So you came up with this idea. How can I do it better? Who are some of the key players that helped you move it to the next level and got you to the point of where you're able to build a public release?
Yeah, I would say largely my co-founder, Shiv.
Okay.
He's really awesome. I had to do a lot of work myself with Qumis to get it to a point where I could earn a strong technical co-founder like Shiv. I'm based in Chicago. Shiv is in Chicago as well. We work very closely. His last corporate role was head of application development at Goldman Sachs. He led the development of their Marcus product. And then he was co-founder and CTO of another B2B startup here in Chicago before leaving and joining me. He had his love at first ChatGPT moment when it first came out a couple years ago. And then he just dove right in and was, playing around with the APIs and building apps, and really thought that this was the future. He wanted to ride this wave.
Sure.
We both think that it's similar to the .com wave. It's a significant change, and it allows for very significant businesses to be born. And so he built the whole thing. So we work really closely together. I have really, really deep subject matter expertise in policies, and
Right.
I benchmark the outputs and help build the product. And then he codes everything. So we've built everything in house. He's probably coding as we speak right now.
Wow.
He's significantly unlocked the growth.
Is he using Claude to write his code for him?
He uses a variety of tools. I can never keep up. He's one of those guys that when he shares his screen, there's about 50 tabs and 5 spaces, and he's just doing everything. But we're certainly both, very much AI enabled founders.
Right.
We use AI tools a lot, and we're able to be extremely productive.
It's great to to have that vision and to connect with the right people, right? Because that helps you take things to another level, right? That's one thing. The main theme of the podcast is about who's, right? Who you work with matters, and who I work with always makes a difference. And I love doing this podcast because I get to learn from so many great human beings like yourself, and that have so many great who's in their lives. And it just makes it important for us to be able to continue to expand our network. And you never know what's next, and you never know who's going to be out there that's going to help you take something to a whole nother level, right? That give and take is super important. And I just love being able to celebrate, other people that, help us get to where we want to be, and to keep exploring and expanding our visions with respect to it. I think it's all great, so I always ask a question. We talk a lot about books on here, but you put a spin in it, and you said you're very into photography. You're the chaos of reading insurance policies. You get to quiet yourself down by putting yourself behind the camera. So talk to me a little bit about your love for photography.
Yeah, my love for photography predates insurance, so it goes back. Did it through high school and college, and after, and so I find it meditative. I like the kind of creativity, the artistic element, just to walk around and observe is really calming, and then to capture things, I always think about the camera as a time machine. It captures that moment, and then you can go back and look at it again. I particularly enjoy photography. It also satisfies the techie in me, because there's a lot of gadgets. So you can spend a lot of money on different tools and cameras and lenses. And, I like researching all those things and seeing what's new. And
then you can bring it back to AI and figure out how to manipulate it to something completely different too.
Yes, exactly. I've been playing around a lot with that new ChatGPT image generation model, and it's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Well, Dan, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to share Qumis with us. I'm very excited for it. I need to get myself a login and start learning a little bit more about it and dive in. And I'm not going to tell anybody I'm using it. I'm just going to be that much smarter.
Exactly.
when it comes to sharing things with clients, prospects, and doing our reviews. But is there anything else that you want to share before we close out?
No, that sounds great. I really appreciate the opportunity, and this was a really great conversation.
Dan, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.